Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the greatest show on earth, the Millionaire Mindsets Podcast. I'm your host, Xavier Miller, and today I got another great episode for y'all. This will be part 2, but before we get started, I would like to advise the listeners to watch us, hit that like button, subscribe, leave that 5-star rating, review, do all those things. We would greatly appreciate it. And getting right to it, like I said, this is part 2 with my good sis Lala. Welcome back, and let's get straight to it. So yesterday we was talking. This is off camera. And we was talking about, you said something that's been on my mind since you said it, but I want you to elaborate more and have this discussion on camera. And you were saying how you met a guy that, if I'm not mistaken, I think you said he was Korean, and he was saying how each ethnicity has their thing in their industry. Mm-hmm. But do you mind just breaking down what it was?
Yeah, so I was at a family office conference, and if y'all don't know what a family office is, it's generally a family that has accumulated some wealth, generally more than $50 to $100 million, and they manage everything themselves, where they're moving their money, their taxation. They have like their own team of people. Right. Okay. So we're at this conference, and the guy, he says to me, and he's actually an Indian guy. And so he says, Indian people, we got a couple things. We got motels, and we have corner stores, like gas station type deals. Vietnamese people have nail shops. Cambodian people in California have donut shops. And he's just like running down the list. Indian tribes got casinos. And then he looked at me, he said, "What black people got?" And I was like, "Don't slap me in public."
Right. Whoa.
And then I posed the question to Instagram and Twitter, and I got some reasonable answers back, which was like, "Oh, we got barbecue, we got this, we like businesses that we do historically in the Black community." But the differentiator is we are not in the each one, teach one, fund and mobilize each other in these industries like what they're talking about.
The manufacturing.
Literally, and if you've never seen this documentary, you should definitely go and watch it. It's called The Donut King. The guy was a Cambodian refugee. He comes and he gets a job at a donut shop, and the person starts teaching him the business. And then they gave him some money for a down payment to start his own business. And then once he got it up and running, more Cambodian refugees were coming, and he was like helping them learn the business. They all have, first of all, you got to have like a work ethic to want to get up at 2:00 in the morning to make people donuts. So,
right.
So he's saying, all right, it's hard to hire, so I'm gonna just keep bringing my people. And then he would teach them the business, then he put them in business. All right, help them go get a lease, help them get financing, all of the things. They stand it up, they pay them back, and then they do it for somebody else. And so at one point, there were like 400 donut shops owned by Cambodian refugees. And so I look at that and I say, wow, we do got barbecue restaurants, but when have they ever shared a business practice? When have they ever even shared like the special seasoning that all got seasoned salt in it?
Right. That's real.
Or said, okay, you open another location, I'll help you with the down payment. I'll help you get your lease terms. I'm going to help you because if you've never been in an industry, you don't even know what to ask.
Facts.
So now you got people who are in lease terms that are terrible that you could have helped because you've been through it and you've been burned before.
Yeah. Why do you think that is though?
For some reason, some of it has to do with like, we don't have the spirit of learning to lead by following. So like to start something like this, you have to be a person who's like, all right, I feel like I'm a boss, but I'm going to get behind you and I'm going to listen. I'm going to do what you tell me to do and I'm going to follow the instructions. Generally, when I meet people who even want to be in business, they'll be like, oh, Xavier got a clothing line, I'm about to make a clothing line.
Facts.
They're not going to ask you no questions about it. They're just going to like secretly jock your stuff and then like try to figure it out on their own and compete with you. Versus being like, all right, Xavier got a clothing line. Let me see if I can source the blanks for him better. Let me see if I can learn how to sublimate and help him make the production better. Something that's aligned with the business as opposed to competing. Mm-hmm. And or if it is going to be a competitor, let it be a cohesive competitor. Because when I was in grad school, this man came and he spoke to us and he's like, he's in the hangers business. And he said, the best part about being in the hangers business is it's not sexy. And if you Google right now, you want a real nice velvet hanger to put in your room, you'll see 6 or 7 different companies that pop up at the top, Google ads, and then the rest of the first page. I own all those.
Damn.
Yes. He's like, I give the impression and the illusion of competition.
A composition. That's brilliant though. Just giving it, because when people see somebody,
they're gonna go to every page and be like, oh, this one $2, this one $2.15. You're like, yeah. And they all come from the same factory.
That's crazy. That's hella strategy. What would you say to people? Because I feel like some people, right? They will hear this conversation, and they, especially the part we talk about what are we doing specifically in the business industry, and they will say, well, because I hear this a lot, and I'll be like, whatever. People say, well, we were slaves. We was the only ones that's been slaves.
Well, that's not even true. But we're probably the only ones that sit in it and identify in it and talk about it a lot and that kind of thing. So that's one of the things that like made me gravitate to learning more about Indian history, because they was also slaves.
Facts.
And they literally, and this is a part of like, I don't necessarily agree with the changing of history and removing things from your history books and that kind of stuff. But like a good amount of their education system is like, we just not even talking about that no more. Like, don't identify with that. We're moving on. We are now identifying as a population of smart people.
That's real. That's true.
Yeah. Who work hard.
Yeah. People that working hard is everything. That's half the battle right there.
Yeah.
But like, how can I put it? Because it seems like, I don't know, maybe it's just an internet thing, but people have a reason and an excuse for everything for why we are not we not where we think we should be. And I'm like, how long is it gonna be 3,000 and we still gonna be saying this shit?
Yeah.
Year 3,000, we're gonna be like, but we was like, how long are we gonna use this?
I think a lot of it comes down to like, we use words like we and they and all of that as a way to pass the buck from being an I. Like an I can do what you're supposed to be doing right now. Like my father, his famous quote to me as a child was always, am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. But my job as my brother's keeper is to take care of myself so he doesn't have to take care of me.
Facts.
And so if we all moved as if we are I's, because we the people really means I individually am going to show up every day for myself and the others, and everybody's supposed to do that. And if you do that, then everything, but if you spend so much time being like, oh, we, the group, we're terrible, all you're going to be is sad. You're not going to be able to move. You're not going to be able to and that's why I think I watch certain people on the internet and I'd be so proud of them, because they may not be like, oh, I'm going to bring 10,000 people to a stadium, but they'll be like, I did something. I taught 10 more people how to do it. Now they're doing well. And they're just like progressively in the microeconomic sense, building towards something that you can look back on and be like, wow, that was a big impact.
Since a lot of these industries are like kind of monopolized, like how we talked about, what do you think is an industry that you say Black people can get in and be leaders in? Or do you think that's even still attainable right now?
So I think anything is always ripe for interruption.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like saying the guy who helped create, I was just reading this article, he went up against Gatorade with body armor. And now he's going up against Nike with Noble. And anybody who looked at that from the outside would be like, you crazy. Like, why would you even start something when you're going to fight juggernauts and there's only 5 people competing, right? So I look at the world in that way. So picking the industry is sort of like a each one teach one backwards thing. Like I applaud people like LaVonne Reeves, because she started off buying a hotel, then teaching people how to buy a hotel. And then she created the platform. They're like, oh, you don't got the money to buy the hotel? Put it on my platform and I'll help you raise the money. So now there ain't no more excuses. So like, could it be hotels? Who knows? She could buy select service hotels. But it literally can be anything.
I agree with that. I also want to talk about something that you mentioned before we start recording too. You talked about culturally, basically, we kind of put too much value and stock into charisma. Just break that down.
Yeah. So, and your rebuttal to that was so good because charisma, we value that so much. Like if you don't have charisma in our community, you basically ain't gonna have no buzz. Like nobody's gonna pay you no attention. Oh, boring, right? Yep. So, and some of that starts from like most of us are deeply rooted in church, and church has a whole lot of layers of hoop and hollering, lots of singing, and all of the things that's all about charisma. And even like down to your pastor and how he gonna and wipe and do all of this stuff, right? That's all performative sort of, right? And so when you go to these other types of conferences that like it's completely not personality driven. It's not like you need, and yes, there's like the Tony Robbins who can reach to everybody, and he's like building a brand off of motivational speaking. When you get into rooms where people are talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, no one's that excited. No one's that charismatic. They're kind of like nuts, bolts. This is how it works. This is how the taxes work. Be in or be out. I'm gonna still be rich. All right, see y'all later.
Yep. No, that's real. That's real. I realize, especially when you talk about the higher people networks get, there's a level. Each level, there's a level of more stoicism, in my opinion.
Okay,
it's like not too up, not too down, just staying even keel. I don't know if that's intentional. I don't know if that's just how people was raised, but I see with people in lower incomes, it's a lot more emotion with things. Period. No matter what it is, whether it's politics, religion, money, and then you talk to people that's doing well, you can't really tell if they're super excited about this or they don't give a damn. But it's like, I don't know, like I said, I don't know if that's intentional, but I think there's some correlation between it.
I think the correlation is that like emotional control is a superpower and it has to be trained. So like a lot of what happens in the community of people who are in lower economic situations is nothing but survival happening. Like the training, there's some like morality training because you're sending people to church, or there's some like training about like don't be in grown folks' business and that kind of stuff. But it's never like, if this situation comes up, how do you respond? And that's why our kids are super excited to tell me that they be crashing out. Like, about what? About
nothing. about nothing. That is true.
I remember being young and people crashing out. Like, you step on my shoes, crashing out. Like, what's wrong with y'all?
That's what going to jail for.
Yes.
No, that's real.
So emotional regulation is a superpower. Being able to be like, you got it, bro. Like, because stuff don't even be mattering for real. But then in like anybody who even trades like the market, the first thing they'll tell you is like, you're only as strong as your last trade, and it better not have been made based on how you felt today or the emotion of it going up and down. You need to be making decisions based on charts and reasoning.
Going back to the charisma thing, right? Let's say if somebody is a black businessman, woman, whatever the case may be, but their audience is majority us, but they don't have a lot of charisma. And in their mind, they like, I'm not that person, but I got a lot of value. Like, what would your advice be to them on how to navigate that environment where they can still be being received well?
Get a partner.
Damn, simple, huh?
So, interestingly enough, everybody knows of the front face man in all situations, right? So, you know Steve Jobs, but you don't know Steve Wozniak. You know what I'm saying? So, like, there's always the back person who's just like, I'm not charismatic. I'm not like interested in being social. In public. Like, I'm good. I'd rather be home. Yeah. And so it's okay to be that, but you do know that at all business, somebody's got to be the front man, even if it's not like charismatic, like you're funny or like know how to lead in a way that's like entertaining. It could just be that you know how to move people, you know how to lead people, and your voice can resonate with them. Because I wouldn't say that Steve Jobs is all that like funny, but like people would be like, like if he's giving a speech, he's not like Brad Lee is like the most entertaining person I've ever like listened to his podcast and kind of stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But I think that his personality would be too much for a public company. Like they would be
I
like,
100% agree. Yeah,
I
they be
need you
like,
to calm down,
calm it
sir.
down. Yeah. You need to be more like Tim Duncan, S.
Yeah.
No personality at all. What would you say, does what's going on right now in the world financially and business, does any of it concern you? And not from a personal level, just from a community level.
Okay, so like in general, in the community, the only thing that ever really concerns me is like mental outlook. So like if people believe what the media tells them and then everybody behaves however they are thinking.
However they
right?
think, right.
And so if you think that we're in a depressed situation and now you walk around and navigate the earth like, we're in a depression, life is bad, blah, 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 and you lead and do things like that, for me, that becomes the parasitic energy that make people do crimes and stuff like that, where like my back's against the wall, nothing good for me, so now I can rob you and feel nothing.
Yeah, because everything is going down anyway in their mind.
Yeah.
So that. Okay.
So I'd like to see people in the news, which almost never happens, be optimistic, because the more optimistic people are, the better like they navigate even the same amount of money, even the same like the situations and the circumstances really don't be changing for most people. Like, oh, the stock market fell. You don't got no stocks, bro. Like, why you feeling this way?
Does the idea, or because a lot of people believe this due to AI, a lot of different things, the price of homes, the stock market, they feel like the wealth gap is widened at a crazy rate and pace.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that is true, or do you feel like it's not really true?
I feel like the people who sit and believe that they don't have to be continuously learning, evolving, and like being up on what's going on are going to be on the bad side of the gap. And that just comes from like way more access to information, way more ability to just like deploy things and try things. And so I'm watching young kids get millions of dollars. I'm watching old people get millions of dollars. And then I'm watching other people make excuses. So it's sort of like it probably isn't going to, I look at most things as like, wow, find me the group of people who are just completely like inquisitive about everything. And they're going to do really well.
Yeah.
Regardless. And I was telling earlier at the conference, I was looking at something on ChatGPT, and he's like, "Oh, you got the fancy version." I was like, "Oh, this is going to be the biggest disparate impact that ever happened. The free version sucks in comparison to the pro version, and the professional version makes the pro version suck."
Yo, it's so crazy. I was just telling somebody, because I was talking to somebody and they seen that I pay for it. And they said, why the hell are you paying for ChatGPT? And I just looked at them like, why you not paying for it? I'm like, you think your free version is the same version that I'm using? Like, you are crazy. And with that being said, I think there are still so many people that undervalue ChatGPT. Everybody says it.
Yeah.
But I don't think most people are really using it right or really know how to use it. Because I ain't gonna lie, ChatGPT changed my whole life.
ChatGPT is literally like my homeboy. No, like I be asking him about all kind of stuff. Like, all right, my baby is 2. She know how to do these things. I want her to be like MIT level smart. What she need to be reading right now, and it'll spit something out.
We on the same page. That's the kind of stuff I be doing in ChatGPT, and it'll make a whole curriculum. Day to day, hour to hour.
Exactly. I'm like, I'm feeling a little chubby in the back and I'm eat bad this weekend. How can I detox for the next week?
This thing is a real, I'm not, and I think some people might hear that and they might think like, man, I don't want to use it for everything. Because I feel like once you are using technology for everything, this is just my opinion, it can make you dumb down a little bit because you're not thinking and critically thinking on your own anymore.
Yeah.
But properly knowing how to use it and using it correctly, not using it for probably simple, stupid stuff that some people try to treat it like it's a therapist or something. But if you're using it properly, it really can
I think that everybody says that about technology, but like at the same time, I know how to multiply and divide really well. I'm still pulling out a calculator though, because I don't want to use my time in this way.
Facts.
And so that's what I think about technology. I think you should learn how to write, and then you should Now, I'm not going to tell you, but 95% of the emails that I send that actually sound like I'm trying to be nice to people is because I wrote what I was really going to say and like to make this way more professional and way nicer.
Yes.
Because my general response to most people's foolishness is not as professional as it should be.
Kinda
It's been helping me.
I ain't gonna lie. I love like the tech period, and there's so many other different apps that can as besides ChatGPT that you can use to elevate your business and professional life.
Yeah. Most people don't realize that all of my videos from 2023 and 24 were AI generated. I filmed one time at like the beginning of the year, and they created sizzle reels, and then they made the content with AI only for the rest of the year.
Does anything about AI worry you?
Everything about it worries me, but it's mainly because with all things great, there's an evil side. There are evil people. I've definitely heard about several people losing hundreds of millions of dollars because there was a fake version of a person with authority getting on a Zoom call and authorizing wires and things like that.
I've heard of that.
So, the creation of checks and balances of real speech and all of that. And, I always worry about things that will affect old people, because the people who robocall grandmas now on some like, you owe taxes, we gonna call the police on you scam is getting worse.
They are.
And the robo can sound like your loved one now. Yeah. So like if your older people in your family don't have discernment to just like, I don't know his number, let me call the number I know and make sure this is the person, there's gonna be a lot of people who get like scammed.
It's already happening too. So you did discernment, and so like you said, the older generation, that is the most worrisome part.
But you know what? What I just forgot about, in my mortgage company, every day I get a fake Dropbox, something with some title requests every day. And so we've had to I have had several trainings for the people on my team to be like, if you don't recognize the name or the sender, you never click anything, because you're only as strong as the weakest person on your team to make your whole business vulnerable to an attack. Because these are all phishing scams. Those are not real documents.
Lala, how long you been doing business?
So technically, I got a mortgage license in 2007, and I opened I bought half of an interest in a spa on the beach in 2008. And then, but like the businesses that I do now, that mortgage company we've had since 2012. And I've been doing what I do like on the legal side, family office side since 2014.
What? Because you was in track. You did you went to the Olympics and all that, correct? Yeah. So you always had an interest in business, or like what? How did this happen?
So I always was like I'm trying to get my own money kind of a person, like the kid who takes the Costco candy bars to school and sell them. 100% returns, because my parents think I'm eating them.
That was me too. I ain't gonna lie.
And so I always was inquisitive about ways that people made money and stuff, but I always wanted to be a doctor. And then when I got out of college, I just started being more inquisitive about different types of businesses. And then once you're in business school, you meet lots of people who are just like interested in all kinds of stuff. And I'm not the kind of person who I've never had a job. So
never.
No, not since so I had hot jobs in high school and I used to sell.
You've been an adult.
Yeah, I used to sell like Coogee sweaters and stuff like that. So when I got offered my first job out of college, they were basically trying to pay me the same as what I was making in the mall, selling suits and Coogee sweaters. So I'm like, I don't even have to think about nothing at that job. You think I'm about to come and be smart for you for this kind of money? You crazy. And work like 90-hour weeks.
Yeah,
so that was the beginning of the jobs are a scam. And then I tried to join JAG actually.
Really?
When I was in like 2L year, I was like, oh, I'm gonna join JAG. It should be cool. I'm from a military town. So the military is like the natural order of things,
Yeah, okay.
at least even just being in the reserves. But I told them I didn't want to shoot nobody, and they said I had to. So, and nobody from JAG even shoots people. Like, I was like,
Yeah, I was about to say, who shoots people in JAG? That's what I was about to say. I'm like, my wife was in JAG.
I wanted to be in JAG, in the Air Force so bad. I thought it was gonna be lit, but
Oh, you was gonna be an airman like me. You know, Air Force is dope. I'm always propping up the Air Force, telling people like, hey, you should join the Air Force. Is
hey, I was born on the Air Force base.
What base?
Langley in
In
Hampton.
Virginia?
Yep.
Wow, that's dope.
Yeah. So I grew up around people, and like, it's Pleasantville though. So because it's nothing but military people, we're only segregated by two things: enlisted people and officers.
You know what's so crazy about this? Everything you saying, it makes so much sense because you give like certain people. It's the thing about military people that everybody different, but there's something about the military you can feel like, was you in the military or something? And you have an energy it's like, she was in the military or something, but you wasn't. I know you wasn't. So I'm thinking like, where did that even come from? But now that you saying all that, I'm like, got it. It makes sense. That's okay. I see. So you've been in business for a minute.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. What have you like? How different when you started and came into the game? How different is it from then to now? Do you think is with the advancement of technology, is it easier? Is it the money faster? Or what would you say about that?
So when things become easier to start, you get more competition. So
Facts.
There used to be way more barriers of entry to start stuff in general. But I would say the biggest thing is the whole world is open to us now. Like when I first started doing business, people didn't talk to people in other countries. Like that was just not a thing. And then even if you were a traveling person, because I was traveling because of track, I had Skype and I had a phone that barely worked. And if it did work, it was charging you $1,000 when you got home because you're roaming and this and that. So now I see the whole world being open, people being able to do business around the world with a click of a button, have conversations and friends around the world. And so business now should be easier. The biggest issue I think is, and I'm going to watch this unfold over the next probably 10 years, everybody's trying to automate every single thing right now.
Yeah.
And then at some point, the business world will be led by the people who have humans. Because it is going to have that like human touch
to it. Yep.
Because there is nothing worse than me saying operator when I call 4 times and have to like get me to a person, bro. Like your options are not what I need.
I was reading something about how there's an influx of people going back to like the old way that business is being done, and they're getting away from just trying to start these tech funds, these tech companies, and people are just going back to like regular old business. I was just reading this recently, and I was that's so interesting because anytime there's an influx of something, there's always a reaction.
And if you know a little bit about marketing or a little bit about technology, you'll crush it in those industries. Because like I have clients right now that do $2-3 million as roofers. And you know how they keep accounting? They got a yellow pad. And when a person calls, they put the address, they put the size of the house, and then they write the amount of squares and who they gonna call. And it's just on a legal pad, and that joint be at the bottom of their truck. I'm like, what? Okay. And so disorganization at the top level, but they know the business. They just don't know how to automate, and they're really not marketing and that kind of stuff. So they're making money off of the strength of doing a good job, getting referrals, having some signs out. And when you got signs out and people working, people will just stop and be like, hey,
what's this?
Yeah. I need this too.
Yeah. How do you manage all like, cause you so knowledgeable in so many things. You busy, you always different places, like handling business. How do you manage all of this as a mom and a wife? Cause I know it ain't easy.
My number one non-negotiable when we were getting ready to have a baby was that I had to have a nanny.
Yep.
And so we do have a full-time nanny. She works from 9 to 6 every day, and she does all of the like busy work. So wash the dishes,
laundry
cook for the kids, laundry, cleaning, running errands, picking the kids up from school, because for some reason school get in and out so darn fast. Like,
no, it's crazy, right?
It's crazy. I don't know how people do that in the middle of their workday. And so she handles all of that so that when we get home, we can just spend time together. So we get to eat dinner together and just talk. And like nobody's thinking about like, all right, we got to hurry up because you got to get a bath and then we got to go wash the dishes and clean the house and all that. So that's a big one. And then the other is that like we are a healthy balance of like to be home, like to travel, like to do things together, and then like to do things apart. And so I enjoy spending most of my time home with the kids, and then he likes to go out occasionally. And so like most people will be like, why you don't ever be going out with him? I'm like, child, I could write a book. I done been on every couch with every bottle. I am all set.
I feel you. No, I feel you. I feel that for sure. And you also mentioned alternative assets. Mm-hmm. Break down like what are some alternative assets that people are sleeping on, they're not aware of. Because when people hear that, I feel like sometimes people think of the most outlandish things.
Okay, so an alternative asset is literally anything that's not a public stock or a bond. So real estate is an alternative asset. But I think there's something that people sleep on a lot is real estate loans. So like owning the paper, the notes is an asset. And so on a good amount of our portfolio, we own the property and the note in separate entities. So we're really paying ourselves. Right. So, and then the things that are like all the hype at the moment, people are talking about like whiskey, wine, car collections, but private equity in general. So owning businesses and being an investor in a business. What else have I heard? Oh, whiskey barrels. Man, I've heard like 6 or 7 different presentations of people about whiskey barrels. As a whiskey lover, one of the very first brand ambassadors for Maker's Mark.
Really?
Shout out to me. My barrel is done. So if you ever in Kentucky, ask them, can you have a bottle?
That's hard.
That's dope. But I understand like the economics on liquid in a barrel is pretty great because you know how much we be spending on liquor? That come right. It's a branding play. So a lot of the new offerings that I'm seeing are just like things that people can make a profit on. That's just not a public company or whatever. The most interesting thing that I've seen lately, there's a hedge fund and they do sports betting but it's like robo betting. And I'm like, you're going to get kicked off the sports book at some point. But until you do, he's getting 78% right bets. So, damn. Yeah. But you can't increase your bets. If you increase your bets, you're going to get kicked out of sports.
Okay.
But, and so like whenever you hear of the guys who give you sports tips, generally they're using straw bettors because they didn't be kicked off of every sport.
What you think about sports betting?
I think it is the new version of the lottery, and people love to gamble and in the hopes of large outcomes, but with very little like information. The fact that like you can bid on literally anything. Like, oh, who's gonna get a tip off? Who gonna have 2 points at the 2-minute mark? I'm like, oh, they've commoditized the fact that people are just really into gambling.
I knew it was a problem in was this 2020 election when you could gamble on the color tie that they was gonna wear during the debates.
Wow.
Yep. That's when I knew. I said, "Oh, this is a problem," and I almost thought about doing it. And I was like, "Nah, this is stupid. Why would I do this?" But that's when I knew like this is out of hand.
That's really interesting. I remember what I was about to say about art, because art as an asset class is really interesting to me because it's a store of value. You can get insurance on it. You can collateralize it. It's pretty cool. But I was talking to somebody who's like almost an exclusive art collector, like their only assets are art. And I said, and I asked them about a specific artist and they were like, oh, don't buy that. And I was like, why? And they said, well, those types of artist pieces are goods. And I said, okay, what's the difference between a good and an asset?
Right.
And they said, well, goods don't have a resale market. If you want to sell that, you're going to have to sell that at a pawn shop or like a thrift store. A asset, you can take that to Sotheby's and put it on auction and it has a resale market. People want to buy it.
The thing about art though is like, where's the numbers come from
it's
the
made up.
Valuation? Like 500,000 for this paint. Like where does this number come from?
It's made up. just like everything else. Everything's value is only based on what someone is
What's
willing
somebody
to
with a
pay.
paper? Yeah.
Yeah. And so something exclusive, people are willing to pay more for it. And, that's why the value of art of dead people is more valuable, because like we had a little conversation yesterday about the guy who was saying, I have art, I have a collection, it's insured, I use it as collateral, but if I lose them, I'm gonna just make another one. So now your supply is not limited.
That alone, that leads me to something else, because I feel like when it's something like that, it's easy to get got.
Yes.
But when it comes to getting got, right? We talked about this yesterday. I done got before. Most people in business.
I got. That's why I don't like Forex.
That's why you don't like, because you got, how you get got with Forex?
I got. So everything, and we talked about this yesterday, everything that comes down to like why you got into an investment almost always comes down to your personal relationship with somebody and your belief in them, right? So the person who brung it to me is my teammate from college, and she's like, oh, I've been doing this with this other teammate of ours for a minute, look at the returns, this and that. And so I sit on it, I watch her get these pieces of paper back. This is not real returns, this is pieces of paper, emails and whatnot, saying that she's making money. So I'm like, all right, cool, I'm gonna do it. So I call her, I say, what's the process? Sign the documents, wire her the money. Excited. Get my first little notice. Oh, we up. I'm making 3% a month, something like that. All right, we up. I'm not expecting nothing crazy. So 3%, I'm like, oh, we doing good. So about 6 months later, I start showing my parents. I start showing my friends, like, y'all should put some money together, get in, like, we're up. So
shit.
Fast forward 6 more months, I get one email that says, the person who's our trader has run away with our money. We're so sorry.
That's it.
That's it. No phone call, no reach out. Mind you, we have a personal relationship. So this email already pissed me off.
Because she didn't tell you.
Yes.
Right.
So email be a formality, but because you have a personal relationship with me, you should have called me.
You should have called first.
Yeah. And I haven't seen her since.
Damn.
And this was 2008.
Damn.
Yeah.
She
don't come to homecoming or nothing.
That sounds like she got some shame at least.
Hey, or maybe she's like, you can only run a scam for so long, and then you got to move to Wyoming. Like, you can run a scam over there.
But what would you say? Because a lot of people listening and watching, right? They might be really young, or they might not have experience getting got by somebody yet. What do you think is those telltale signs to know, like, nah, this ain't. I'm a pass on this one.
A part of it is like, you got to use your discernment about how you feel about things. If you're a little worried, that's usually a telltale sign. But generally, I would say, like, if they're too eager to show you that they're making money off the strength of nothing, like y'all just sitting not talking about nothing, and they're like, oh, let me show you, they're trying to drag you into some kind of a scheme.
That's the bait. That's the bait.
Yeah, it's the bait, because they know that we're a money-driven society. It's sort of like, just like, oh, I'm gonna just keep sitting this cupcake right here. I'm gonna just keep sitting it right here. And you're gonna look at it and you're like,
eventually,
I don't even like cupcakes for real.
Facts. Eventually, you're gonna be like, all right,
man, the joint looking a little sweet.
Right.
Let me see. And you'll start off with something small, and they're gonna delight you with the small. And then
they pull you in with the big.
They pull you in with the gusto.
And then they get you. And it's over.
Right.
What's your best advice to handling that, to people that did got that's watching this?
It depends. So we do run, we have a fraud department. So we will sue people, but we're going to look and make sure they got assets first. Like, you don't care about their credit. So getting a judgment is easy, because you're going to have proof that you gave them the money and all of that. Winning a judgment. Now, collecting a judgment is a whole nother set of things.
Right.
And you don't want to be spending a bunch of time and energy on something that's not collectible. So for me, if you don't see something with some deep pockets that you can directly attach,
don't even
cut your losses and go make some more money. Like, focus elsewhere, because you'll end up in in a spiraling situation where
You paying
you've paid more money
then you lost.
than you lost, and you're not going to be able to collect it. And yeah, it's going to go in their credit, but like, who cares?
Because you can always bounce back with the credit.
Yeah.
Easily too, which is crazy.
Especially because like the entire internet's job at this point is to tell people how to take things off their credit. And like and for the most part, I'm not anti that. What I am anti is not making people learn to be more responsible. Because you knew you took them people's money. And so if you want people to pay you and live in a righteous way towards your business, you can't help people always just go around the loophole of paying others.
With that being said, what's your number one social media pet peeve when it comes to money advice, business advice?
Half stories.
What do you mean?
So every person who's in real estate will say, you should be investing in real estate because of depreciation. You can write it off on your taxes. You cannot. If you're not a real estate professional, you can only write passive losses, which is what it would be. Depreciation, you can write off. It'll become passive losses, and you can only write it off against passive income. If you don't have passive income, it does nothing for you.
What what percent of what you see online, right? If you just had to give it a percentage based on what you see, that is actually good advice on the internet, come to money in business, what percent would you say it is?
20%.
That's good.
Yeah.
So you saying most of it is bullshit?
Yes. And most of it is regurgitated information, so they don't even know no better. And the worst part is we live in the age of information where you could have just looked it up.
Facts.
And so the 20% though, unfortunately, only 10% of them are going about it in a way that's like not messy and nasty. Cause like, I don't like that whole like put a picture over somebody else saying something and like slandering them. Like that's not a good way of building up that.
So with the all the influx of bullshit basically we seeing, why do you think that it's just rampant and an abundance on the internet?
Because everybody wants to have a microphone, an opinion, and an audience in a community because they think it's lucrative.
But I'm saying as far as is being perceived well.
Oh, because if you don't know anything, you don't know how to tell the difference between is this true, is this not true, or is what they're saying not complete information, because you just have no idea. It's like if you've never invested in real estate,
you don't know.
You would have no idea that, I got a perfect one. In Florida, we have tax caps.
Right.
So every year, your taxes can only go up 3% for your personal home and 10% for your investment property. If you don't know better, you wouldn't know that you can fight your reassessment. And because this is more than 10%. All you have to do is send a paper and you send it to the tax collector's office and you can get the money back. But because you've never been in real estate and you don't know the rules, a person just saying like, oh man, we can help you. It'll be like that. That's what it'll be. Somebody trying to sell you something like, oh, we can help you do something about gentrification, taxes, and like save your home. Okay. Now you're selling me a product for a problem without realizing like these are just rights and like you probably just shouldn't sell this.
What's funny, what's crazy is you can kind of fight like anything, and I feel like a lot of people don't know that. Like prime example, one of my neighbors, he got his house appraised recently, and it was a lot over what he paid for it, and they tried to make him pay taxes on what the appraisal value was, because he bought his house like in December, and then bought it like the summertime. It's like, well, you're gonna have to pay taxes on this new value, but he's like, nah, I bought it at this point. This is what I need to be paying taxes on. Yes. So he ended up going to court, winning. And now he paying taxes on what he originally bought it for. But I feel like most people in that situation, they would just ate it and be like, fuck, I didn't know this was going to happen.
Yeah.
So it does come down to most people be completely unaware to a lot of things when it comes to business, money, all that stuff.
That most people are unaware that they have rights in general and that you can sue for anything and that you can ask for things. And like, there's no shame in asking questions, showing up to the city council meeting and finding out like, Why, if I live in a community that says that the lots have to be an acre, why are you letting these people build this without it being an acre? And you just think you gotta take it. Now you're gonna have 1,000 houses behind your house.
You know what's crazy though? I realized specifically in our community, we just take stuff. In the other communities, they be like, damn, he ain't going. You would think like, I would have never, most people just gonna chill. This motherfucker like it's this dude in my community, an Indian dude. This motherfucker don't play. Anything, he on their ass. And I'm like, most people will just be like, this just is the way it is. But other communities, they like, nah, you know you got rights. Like, this supposed to be this way. It need to be this way.
The worst thing that the world could have done to me was let me go to law school. Because once I found out that like most of this, like, oh, this is all made up. The people who even making these laws don't even know what they're talking about. Oh, got it. I don't believe nothing no more. Like, y'all let me out the bag. I'm questioning everything now.
I've heard so many attorneys say that. They be like, man, all this shit just made up.
Yes. And then like even the laws as they come out, there's somebody else writing them. They're giving them to a specific politician and they're putting it out. And half of the time it'd be unconstitutional, but a person who has standing has to fight it to make it unconstitutional. So many like layers that why some things are on the books that are completely unconstitutional, but nobody's fought them.
What's the biggest thing like you learned from being an attorney, especially when it comes to dealing with like business and money? Something that you feel like most people wouldn't know or be aware of?
That paying taxes is voluntary, really. Like the tax code is so complicated on purpose. It's like the best version of a puzzle. Where it's like everything is income unless it's this, unless it's this, unless it's this, unless it's this, unless it's this. Here's like 75 more exceptions. And so I think that the really studying of the tax code has been the most like, oh, I'm just living in the world where I was accepting everything. Like, oh, you know, you give it to the CPA, you assume that they know things. They don't. Especially about specific income types. We actually talked about this morning at this oil and gas summit I'm at. And like, these are sophisticated people who are like, our clients have been invested in oil and gas and they've not been getting the full 75 to 80% deduction for their investment because their CPA said no. The CPA ain't the boss. He ain't the boss, right? I would pick another one, but they just don't know the difference in the nuances of the rules because that's not the income type they're used to.
It's so, and this goes back to what we talked about yesterday, especially for people that's like first generation people in their family that's making money. It's so much that you have no idea, and you learning through trial and error, and through the error process, you end up, you don't even know how much money you done took L's on that you probably should have just because you don't know what's going on. But there's no blueprint for us either. Like if you come from a family where doing business is a norm, being in the financial industry is a norm, you got the advantage. But that's not most of us. That's not our reality.
Yeah. And the craziest thing is like the biggest opportunities in business are like regulation changes. Like when a regulation change, it creates an ambiguity. And most people, if you know just that one little nuance, that information nugget again, it's going to change. Like Amazon exploited one rule that gave them market share, which was it wasn't completely clear how to do sales tax on the internet. And so for like 3 years, they didn't charge sales tax on their sales. So then they're like beating Walmart and Target's ass on the prices because you don't got to pay taxes.
You ain't got to pay taxes.
And then when it comes down, they're like, okay, now we got to pay taxes. But now Walmart is like, yo, you let them dominate us for real for like years with no repercussions. It's like, hey, we exploited a loophole, what was ambiguous at the time. So I feel like that's happening sort of right now with crypto and stuff where they're like, oh, we don't know what to call it. We don't know how to tax it. We don't know how to track it. Super exploitation of large gains that people are kind of like, it don't really exist. It's in my cold wallet.
No, facts. It don't. It really don't. Do you believe in having anything in your personal name?
No.
Nothing?
No.
Why?
I mean, your personal house that is homestead protected will be in your name in some ways, but even that in public records, I would have it as a living trust name, and the beneficiary would be me.
And I remember when I posted about somebody came to my crib, like, you know, the little TikTokers be popping up around the cribs. What do you do for a living? I posted about somebody came to my crib. You text me, you was like, hey, I'm how you fill out these forms because people shouldn't know where you live at. I was like, he just came to a random house. He ain't know, he was just a little random white dude just comes to random houses. He didn't really know. But I was like, that's crazy because people should know or have access to it when you think about it.
Yeah.
But even when you think about this, right? When we was coming up, y'all remember the yellow pages and shit, right?
Yeah.
Everybody phone number, like personal information, so different now.
We were delisted back then.
Really?
Yeah. Like, oh, you have to fill out a form to not be in the white pages.
You had to pay for it too, right?
No, it's
you
free.
didn't? Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. But personal information, I feel, is claimed because that was like the norm. Now people would be losing it if you could just had a book and like, oh, I got LaVonne address. Let me call her.
Way better access to that. Google anybody's name. Like literally, I do this and I don't send it to them because I think that they'll think I'm crazy a little bit. But like I will like let's say you an influencer and I know what your real name is and I search it, I see all the businesses they own, where they live, where they vote, all that. Oh, you a Republican too? Okay, cool. Like I can see all of this in 5 seconds, right? And so I'm usually like, I should send this and be like, and solicit some like privacy services for them. But I'm like, people gonna think you crazy, bro. Don't do it. So
not really. That's I think that's good info for people.
No, but you know it's so funny. I spoke at Herman Dulce, who is a Haitian CEO. I spoke at one of his events, and before I went on stage, I showed him his address, and he's like, "Where you got that from?" And I was like, "The internet." He's like, "That's crazy. I need to do something about it." And I was like, "Yes." And this is your parents' address, and this is where your kids go to school, and this is where you vote. You need all of this taken off the internet.
Yo, this is so wild because you got people on the internet that's really like popping it and flexing crazy. And my mom, she's so old school. I feel like I got the most modest, humblest. I don't even be doing nothing. You need to take that down. What you know, everybody can. I'm like, Mom, what you like? I got 100,000. I'm like, look, I'm chilling. She like, nah, people watching. I'm like, but she right though. Even though it's like, even though people may see it as paranoid, it's true at the same time.
Because for all your fans, there's always that like 1% of super fans. Those people be crazy for real.
No, for
like,
real.
John Lennon was killed by a fan in his house.
Facts.
Like, people are crazy. And so most people are fine, but it only takes one to do something that like that goes above and beyond, and you're gonna have to shoot them in your door. You know what I'm saying? So I think that privacy is super important. Your name shouldn't be in no public records. You shouldn't own things because life be lifing. I literally got, beyond the craziness that happened in that Uber yesterday, I got into an accident in the last Uber I was in. And all I be thinking is like, we are all subject to these random acts that create liability and or harm for others. And so you don't want your stuff to be taken away because, you know, you tapped the back of a car. I'm still actually in the middle of a litigation that happened from a car accident I was in 2004. I don't even remember the details for real.
2004?
Yes.
What would you say to people, right? They'd be like, well, I ain't got no wife, I ain't got no husband, I ain't got no kids. What I need a trust for?
So, because you don't want, like, if something was to happen to you, you don't want your mother, cousin, whomever you care about to be arguing at probate court. And even if it's not them, you should want to have decisions on where your things go. So let's say you only care about your university, or you only care about the NCO club. You only, like, whatever it is you care about, you can give your things to it. The biggest reason why we don't have huge institutions in the Black community, including like social clubs, is because we don't bequest our things to those institutions. Like those like Knights of Columbus and all of that, they own so much real estate because their members be giving it and stuff.
Point. It is powerful.
Yeah.
Because they do own those, even like you said, the social clubs, all this stuff. They own a lot of stuff and they get a lot of kickback from their members to keep that thing flowing.
Yeah, they even make special insurance policies to just make sure, like, all right, we can keep this organization alive. It's doing great work, that kind of stuff.
What would you say? You've been in business a long time. You've been killing it. You've been around people that's been killing it, made a lot of money. What's the biggest lesson as far as money that you know that would be like a nugget to people that people may not be aware of, or they might have like some kind of misconception on?
I'd probably say that like money is just a tool. That might not be a misconception. It just it's an immutable fact. It's a tool. It can make money. It can make relationships. You should be paying to be in better rooms. You should be paying to do things to enhance your life with your family. But I'd also say that most people are not keeping their money moving enough. So saving is dead capital for the most part. Even sitting it in, like letting it just sit in your home, for example. A lot of people have a lot of equity in their homes, right? And for peace of mind, I say some things are worth not touching, right? A lot of people will own a home free and clear and they're like, I don't want to go get a mortgage because for peace of mind, I don't want to owe nothing on this property. I understand that as a value. If that is the value that you have to like, I don't want you to do, and I don't want people to do anything with their money that breaks their peace or their happiness.
Facts.
Right? So even when you're investing in things, you should be thinking about it from those two are the cornerstone. Is this going to break my peace and my happiness if I lose it? 100% of it, right? And am I investing in something that's going to break my peace and my happiness because of what I have to do? Because most people be buying jobs that they don't want because he's not exposed to it. Being a landlord sucks. Like I'm never gonna like glorify that in any way. Like because dealing with people sucks in general. So signing up for a job that is a real job that has to do with humans, sometimes it sucks. And like if it's not something you really want to do, you should think about putting your money in other places.
Even when you're a landlord, even because some people, everybody say, well, if you don't want to suck, get a property manager.
Property managers suck.
And they could be very helpful.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you still got to deal with people. You still got to, if your tenant wild or crazy, I remember one of my tenants was trying to bury her dog in the backyard and she had a big ass pit bull. And I went back there, a big ass hole in the yard. But my point is you still dealing with people to a degree. Yeah. But this last thing I want to touch on. Yesterday we was talking about something. You were saying how there's a lot of terms that was being used right now in the community that you hate.
Yep.
Let's talk about that. Because I remember you said,
term number 1. Financial literacy. Can't stand it. Don't want to hear y'all say it. Don't want y'all to keep telling people that you're teaching people how to do financial literacy when you're just teaching them how to get credit cards. So I dislike the term a lot, mainly because it's being pushed for the agenda of teaching strategy. But that would be like a person trying to teach you how to read, but they only teach you one book in like a couple sentences over and over and over again. Never like how to comprehend words, what they mean, context, anything. Financial literacy is really the ability to understand how everything interplays with each other and then make decisions based on specific facts in different contexts. So it's not a play. It's
right.
There is no like one size fit all blueprint way of dealing with finances. So I hate it. I hate the term so much. And
generational wealth.
Generational wealth. Okay. So the reason I hate the term generational wealth is just because it's being exploited also from the standpoint of people who don't have individual wealth. So you have to focus on yourself first to build something that you can give intergenerationally. And generational wealth is important. Intergenerational pass downs But most of it should be like your knowledge, your skills, your work ethic, the way that you carry yourself as a family. That's the wealth. Because the people are going to be doing the thing. So they are important, more important than the money. Because if you teach them enough, they won't need the money.
Right. It was funny. I ask a lot of people now, when people tell me they want to build generational wealth, the first thing I ask people, I say, why? Why do you care about 3 generations from now? Not to say you shouldn't, but I just want to know, why do you care about if your grandson is driving a Bentley when you dead and gone?
Right.
Why do you care about that?
I definitely don't care about that. My entire idea around intergenerational wealth transfer is I want to put my entire family in the position where they can be exactly what they want to be. Now, what they have to be because of the time and the situation. So I have a family that have like the intellectual capacity to be like researchers, like real doctors, scientists type people, right? But science don't make no money, right?
Facts.
Being a teacher doesn't make money. So you have to put them in a position where they're doing things in a post-economic way. Like my bills are already covered. I'm doing this because I love these kids.
Right.
I'm doing this because I want to advance science. I'm doing this because I can see the change that can come on the other side of it. And that's what I build and accumulate money that makes money for that purpose. Not so they can chill.
Right.
Definitely not so they can drive Bentleys. Definitely not so they can be like, oh, we've been members of this social club for 5 generations. Don't care about none of
that. But that's what it's being sold as now. It's like when I see people do these conferences talking about it, it's like, don't you want your kids to have a bunch of money? They could do the blah, blah, blah. I'll be like, why the fuck do you care if your great-great-grandkid own a mansion?
Yeah.
You dead. Like, what is they doing? Like, what is they doing to impact society, the world? To like, that's the kind of stuff that I care about when I think about generational wealth. That's what I think of. I don't think about having a bunch of shit that they buying. And
if I showed y'all, like, it's so crazy because I never really thought about wealth at all. I never, like, when you're a kid, you have no concept of like money at all. You're just like, this is your life and this is how things are going, right? And so my grandparents have lived in the same house my entire life. We have a formal living room that has a piano in it, and this man who's played in the church forever, he comes over and plays. He's terrible, but
he's terrible.
But they just took the plastic off that furniture like two years ago.
Damn.
It's been on it my whole life. This same furniture the whole time, mind you. You know, my grandfather retired in 1990, so like. He's been retired most of my life. He always still was gone every day doing something like with business. But my whole point is, I always thought we were wealthy regardless. Like, oh, you know, people come over, we have a good time. You know, we only ate in the formal dining room on Sunday prayer breakfast or for Thanksgiving. You know, the whole family comes over. There are guest rooms, but we rather slay on the palace in the living room so we can all be together.
Right.
Like, just all of that fun. And yes, the house is paid off. It's on some acreage. How much more does one need? Like, that's basically his whole point, was like, I could buy a bigger house if I wanted.
Facts. How much do I need?
How much do I need? I built this house for myself to be like this. Even my grandma's room is a ridiculous size for like the size of the house. But he's like, we the only people who live here.
Right.
The rest of them rooms can look like whatever.
and I think that's a large part what wealth is, because everybody think that wealth is needing all these things or wanting all these things. Where now I'm realizing that wealth is needing less. Like, you don't need as much. That don't mean you don't have anything.
Right.
You have things, but you don't need all these outside things.
Yes. They all just become pulls on your life.
Right.
You got the boat, now you're like, oh, I got to take the boat out. You
don't even want to go. Right. You don't even want to use the boat, but you like, I spent all this money on the boat if I don't use it.
Yeah, now I feel like I wasted it. So now I'm dragging myself on the boat. I'm paying all this money for maintenance. All of these things that you accumulate just become drags on like your personal freedom, which is what wealth really is. Doing what you want when you want. Which is why you're seeing way less families buying second homes instead of just being like, all right, I'm gonna do 2 months in wherever with a luxury Airbnb. Like, that's good enough. as opposed to like having multiple houses that are filled with your things all the time that you never see and you visit once a month, once a year, you know.
Yeah, I got an aunt. She worked for the CIA, and and her husband. I don't know what he did, but I know they was wealthy. And I remember the first time when I realized we when we. I'm like,
you
man,
came home and told your mama you was broke.
I was like, yo, what the? I didn't even know it. Like we pulled up. I remember because my dad ain't never say nothing. My dad, he not a person that's moved about money. Like he's never like that. He's just like whatever. So I remember he was like, we going to see your aunt, and we driving far. We pull up, and I'm like, who museum is this? Like, what museum we going to? He like, what? This your auntie house. She ain't got no kids or nothing. It look like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air house, but like times 2.
Wow.
Crazy. And I'm like, I remember walking inside, her hallways, like as wide as these hallways in here. And I'm just looking, I'm like, damn, we broke as hell. I'm like, it's low. I ain't even know. I'm like, yo, I ain't know people had money like this. Like, how she get this? Yeah. But that exposure, that was like the first real exposure. I got people in my family that's like hood rich, like doing shit in the streets.
Yeah.
They got nice houses, Range Rovers. You think that's it, but it's different levels where you get exposed to. You like, oh, this is possible.
Yeah.
I feel like as Black people, it's important if you can be exposed to those things to be exposed to them as early as possible.
That's why I think I think the best training that I ever got was move-in day at HU. So when I got to Hampton, my first move-in day, what I saw made me realize that my family wasn't an anomaly. You saw lots of families coming, dropping their kids off. Everybody got Benzes and BMWs and all that. And it was like real Cosby, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, oh, this ain't just us. Oh, this is lit. I love it. Because the media is going to make it seem like, oh, y'all one in a million.
That's
type
TV.
Thing, right?
That ain't real.
So that's one. And then the other like exposure is you kind of got to just do it. Get it out your system. Because I went through a phase where it had to be Gucci. It had to be Versace.
Louis.
It had to be a Gucci sweater.
Me too.
Right? But once you do it, and then you get to a point where you like, might need some money one time. You're like, man, I wish I wouldn't have bought all that crap, right? And then I want my money back. That's one. And then doing the different things. So I've have really large houses to the point where you're like, I don't never go over there. Like the other side of the house, I never go on this floor. I never go. And I was like, yeah. And at the time, I'm like single with no kids.
Damn.
What are you doing this for? So that people who are coming to visit will have fun place to stay. Like this is silly.
Yo, when you think about it, it is like, yo, these people ain't even here 90% of the time.
They don't be coming. Before I had a baby, nobody came to visit me for real, unless they was coming to go to the beach because I live in Miami. But like, I ain't live close to the beach. So I used to be like, oh, this was. And then once you see how much money you're really spending on this like housing that doesn't make your life any better, then I move, boom. I'm going 1 bedroom, I need to be on the water though.
Hey, that's a nugget for people that's watching. Don't never buy a house with keep thinking it for everybody else. Like, I'm gonna buy this house, we gonna have the parties here, everybody gonna come over. It ain't gonna be like that.
Yes.
It's gonna be you in that big ass house. You and your person, or you by yourself, just dusty. It need to get the ceiling fan need to get wiped because ain't nobody like. So don't never do that. Buy what's for you.
Yes.
But before we wrap up, I want to give you a last nugget, right? So if somebody that's watching that's young, they on ground zero. They probably ain't got much money, much education probably, but they want to get into a position that you in, or at least on the journey.
Yeah.
What would be your best piece of advice for them right now in 2025 to get that ball rolling?
I want you to get interested, get inquisitive, get hungry about anything and dive deep into it. Because the riches is in the niches, but a mile deep, not a mile wide. So the more you know of something, the more you can charge, because you are going to be solving better problems for richer people. Yeah, you don't want to work with startups. Like, everybody wants to work with startups, and I'm like, it's a terrible idea.
Everybody want to work with startups. So that's funny that you say that, because usually people don't say that.
Yeah, that sounds exciting, but it isn't. You want to work with mature businesses that have a problem that you can solve. And so if you're a young person and you got the aptitude to learn, all you have to do is find a problem that can be solved with the internet of some sort and learn it cold. Even if it's like you're a person, you like taking pictures. Cool. Start off by just offering your service to take pictures for realtors of houses. Like, there are so many ways to monetize knowledge, but getting better and deeper and being more inquisitive is the way to like become super successful at anything.
Read that last part again. Say that one more time.
All right. Having interest and being inquisitive and going deep in anything is the way to become super successful at something. So having surface level knowledge, you can start, but you're going to be in the commodity space competing with everybody doing the same thing. But the better and deeper you know something, like I'm going to give you a great example. I do mortgages, right? And we will literally finance anything attached to the ground. But the real reason why we're not competing is because we are solving complex problems for people who everybody else is going to say no to because they don't actually understand the underwriting guidelines. So you got to study the underwriting guidelines. If you want to be a great loan officer, you need to know what lenders are looking for and all of the little nuances that are like someone's going to misinterpret. Because it's not that they don't qualify, it's that the person interprets it wrong and you have to go back and explain.
That simple.
Yeah.
Wow, no, that's a real nugget. I hope that I ain't going over people's heads because in this information age, it's like we'll look something up for a day or two. We feel like we know it all. It stops right there. I chat GPT for 2-3 days. Oh yeah, I know the ins and outs of this thing.
Yeah.
Like you don't know shit, boy.
Right.
No, that's a perfect nugget. So in wrapping up, I want to say I appreciate you coming on. But before I let you go, plug in your stuff where people can find you, follow you. They want to become a client of yours. Everything you got going on.
Yes. All right. So I'm Lala Hurdles 2 on Instagram. I'm LaVonne Idlette on LinkedIn. Idlette on Twitter, also known as X. And if you're looking to get a consultation to look at things like setting up your own private offerings to raise capital, or you want an estate plan done, you can get a consultation at b3xwiser.com.
Perfect. And as for me, you guys can find me on all platforms at Xavier C. Miller and the Millionaire Mindsets podcast as well. As y'all see a lot of information. She's killing it. Got a lot of game. I'm going to put her stuff in the description so you guys can tap in with her. And that's all I got for y'all in this episode. See you guys next episode. Peace.